Welcome to part 3 of the making of the adventure film Dreamwalkers. This part is all about the editing and the post-processing of the film, and I'm going to walk you through what I did to manage over 4,000 clips and find my way through and create this film in the end. So the most important thing is to stay organized on location and obviously afterwards as well. So for me, it was every night when everyone went to bed, I spent another hour, 2 hours ingesting, backing up, and making sure that all the content that we created that day was safe and organized as much as it possibly could be on location. We were shooting with 5 cameras, and that was usually 3 cameras at one time, a time-lapse camera and the 2 primary cameras, plus we both had a secondary camera, so there was at least 2 cameras rolling, if not 3 at the same time, which meant there was an awful lot of footage being created, an awful lot of angles being created at the same time. So every day was structured in a way that every camera had its subfolder per day. So we had camera 1, 2, and then we had gimbal, and we had slow motion, time-lapse, and drone folders. So 6 subfolders for every day, and every camera I just dumped the footage into there. Then obviously I renamed and sorted the footage in there. I used Photo Mechanic, which I use for my photo and video workflow because it's a really great tool to import really quickly and rename your files, and I can back up while I import, so I can immediately create a backup of my files as soon as they come off the camera SD card. I was backing up onto 2 separate 2 terabyte Seagate drives, which I kept in different locations in case one got damaged or something like that. I also used Photo Mechanic to review the footage, so it usually would be 1 or 2 in the morning, so I'd really quickly skim through the footage and just check that things were going the way I wanted to and expected to, that the quality was there, that the shots, the important shots were in focus, things like that, and just checking the way the film was shaping so we could adapt the next day and learn from our mistakes and work on what the stuff that was really good, and obviously leave out the things that we didn't like so much, and also work on the things that we were missing out on. So if we needed more B-roll, more rigging, more highlighting from this perspective, or obviously the drone stuff, which was so vital to show the location and the action and the beauty of the whole place, we specifically reviewed that almost every day. The footage that comes out of the E1 Mark II is in an H.264 codec, which is great for capturing and great for delivering, but really bad for editing. So I had to recode my footage and basically decompress it, which means I would have used plenty of hard drive space, which I really didn't have. So I had to create a different workflow. So I created a proxy workflow, which meant I encoded the footage into Apple ProRes codec, which is really great for editing, but it takes up a lot of space. So I scaled down the resolution by 1/4. So I was using 540p footage to edit my film in, and it worked really smooth. This is also great because I had a 3rd backup. While it's not a great backup, it's still a backup of all my footage in a different location again. I was using a Samsung T3 SSD drive, which is drop proof and all that, so it doesn't really have any moving parts, which meant it was great to work on, plus using Thunderbolt 3 over the USB-C 3.1 connection. I had a 450 megabytes per second read and write rate, or even more, so it was really good and fast, and I could leave my internal computer free for editing, and I have my memory storage and the footage storage on the SSD card, and I could take it with me anywhere. So it was a really good, portable, easy, light, compact system to work with. Effectively, I created an offline workflow, meaning that my actual footage I left on the hard drives and didn't touch until I encoded the final film. Once I had my files in 3 different locations, twice the originals on 2 different hard drives in 2 different locations, plus the proxy files, low resolution, easy to handle on my SSD drive, I was ready to get started on the editing of this project. I tried to keep my folder structure in Premiere Pro and find as similar as possible, so that when you create folders in Finder, they would also be created in Premiere Pro and the other way around. That is not necessary, but it really gives you a visual connection between the two, because you can create your own folders in Premiere Pro that are completely virtual, unrelated to where objects are located in your actual computer file structure. But keeping that visual connection is really important. You might have guessed it, it's all about staying organized on location, in the post-processing, and obviously inside every single application. Every single process you do has to be organized, because working through plus about 3,000 files is really not that easy. The most important part was to find a balance between the action sports, the highlining, and the beauty of the location that we were at, which was the Faroe Islands. And I had to figure out a way to tell the story that showed off those two things. A few questions I had to ask myself was, how do I tell this story? How do I bring across the where, the when, the who, the why, and the how? Those were like the things you have to answer in a story when you're telling a story. So a good adventure story has a problem to solve, and that was the most important part of this film, was to figure out what was the problem and how were these guys solving it. And obviously, being in the Faroe Islands, the location was one of the problems, and highlining in the Faroe Islands was the actual physical problem. Now, these guys are really good at it, so it was really about showing how they solved this, how they rigged, how they went to locations, how they approached the locations, how they planned it, and how they figured out how to do what they love doing. Visually, I really wanted to show off the beauty of the Faroe Islands, the beauty and the struggle and difficulty of highlining in the Faroe Islands, and obviously the fun that was had during this whole project. For a lot of my scenes, I exported screen grabs out of the project into Lightroom, where I then graded and colored the screenshots and then exported those grades as LUTs, lookup tables, back into Premiere Pro to then use as a base for my grading, and then I obviously finished it off inside Premiere Pro. So there was 3 steps of grading here: basic grade in Premiere, pulled it into Lightroom, some more grading there, created my own LUT, and then some additional grading on top of that. You cannot believe how important it is to pick the right song to create an atmosphere, create a mood, and put the viewer into the place, make them feel what the athlete is feeling, get the goosebump moments. It was important to me that I would find music that I would listen to even without the visuals. So without this project, I really had to like the music, and I used a mix of labels: Marmoset, Epidemic Sound, Deep Elm, and also individuals who actually made some sounds and music for the project. I also added some additional sounds, atmosphere sounds, just some special effect sounds to emphasize some moments. All the music licenses are non-commercial. That is out of financial reason. Licensing music for commercial use is really expensive. So by this time I was basically spending my own money in this project, and I just couldn't afford to go on a commercial license. This is by far the biggest project I have ever worked on, and it was fun from the first moment that the idea came up until now, where I'm creating the behind the scenes and the making of and talking about it. In total, it took me about 2 months to edit and then re-edit and re-edit and re-edit. The final film is a 29-minute long adventure story of 4 guys who went to highline in the Faroe Islands, and I'm incredibly proud of what it looks like. It was all the preparation, the filming and the editing, the whole things that I learned throughout the process to me are really worth it, and in the end that is what counts to me, that I'm happy with this project. And I've never learned so much about telling stories, creating film, creating adventure stories, working with athletes, working with other people, creatives, with music. There's all these things that I've learned, and I really can't wait to take all this experience and take it to the next project in the future. The film now has been submitted to outdoor and adventure film festivals, and I really hope that it gets picked up and screened, and that it can really inspire people all around the world to go on their own adventure. And if you like this behind the scenes look into the film, and I hope you're excited to see the actual film, check out the trailer, of course, read the blog post, and if you like what I do, consider supporting me on Patreon as well, and check out all the links below in the description for additional shots, information, and so on. And I hope this helped you as a creative to get an insight into the mindset behind this, the process behind this whole thing, and the fun that went into it. And hopefully you've been inspired to create something of your own, and let me know if you do, and please leave me a comment below, give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and hopefully I see you around in the next video.